How long does it take for your company to activate a new customer? Nuvo helps LBM suppliers get customers ready to buy on house accounts in minutes, not weeks, not days. With instant verifications, streamlined job sheets, and real-time credit insights, your team can start loading trucks while your competitors are still checking references. Check out Nuvo. Reach out to the team at nuvo.com, that's nuvo.com, to learn more. Hey there, I'm Thea Dudley, also known as the Credit Overlord, and welcome to LBM Talks Credit. We are the only podcast that talks trade credit in the lumber and building material space. Never miss an episode, stay tuned, and we're glad you're here. Hey everybody, welcome to a very special edition of LBM Talks Credit, because it's a little bit different. It's almost like LBM Talks Credit meets LBM Talks Social Media, because on this episode, we are going to be talking about social media and the world of credit. One of the things that always kind of gets my attention is credit managers, our lack of voice. A lot of times, I think I can count to the same like half a dozen credit managers that I see consistently posting information about credit, especially in our LBM space. And then there's the credit associations do a phenomenal job of putting information out there. But for the most of it, we're not as verbal as we could be, which is really odd because we are a verbal group as a whole. So I reached out to my producer and social media maven, Sally. You guys all are very familiar with her, to ask for her take on this topic and to kind of help me, arm credit managers with some knowledge and maybe some food for thought. And maybe we could go down this little path. So Sally, I kind of feel like credit managers kind of ghost social media a little bit. What do you see? And I know it's not your world, but I'm making it your world because you spend so much time with credit people now.
Well, I would say I have a small network of credit managers on LinkedIn right now. It consists of you, some other people I've maybe met at LBM Strategies. But yeah, I would say I don't. So because of that, I don't think I see a ton of credit managers on LinkedIn. I mean, I see you, Thea, and I think you do a good job with yours. I mean, when it comes to this podcast, like whenever, you talk about a new podcast episode or things like that, I just notice that it gets a lot of traction. And that's just like a great way to use LinkedIn. Because on this podcast, you're talking about credit related things. So why not promote it on LinkedIn? So so my network is small. But yeah, there are people that can be reluctant for different reasons, I guess.
Well, so I did a little recon because when I first came to you and said, "Hey, can we talk about this?" Because I am not the social media guru that you are. It's just not my world. It's part of how our world has evolved and how the role has evolved. You've got to have connections, and it used to be that I would meet other credit managers going to credit associations or just like building material association meetings. And I would meet them there and we'd connect, and then we would stay in touch, and it would be a lot of phone calls. And now it's, you can text, you can Zoom, there's all these different things. And you're able to put this network through on LinkedIn. And what I like about LinkedIn is that I'm able to grab that community, but sometimes it feels like we're not as present as we could be. Now, I do have some credit manager friends that are great at it. I've got one of my friends, Heidi, who is in a different industry in the construction venue. She posts a lot. She's with one of the CFDDs. She's with one of the NACM associations. And she does a phenomenal job there. Jen Martin does a great job of always posting a lot of, cool information. But for the most part, we're kind of, a little bit silent. And so when I asked some credit people, I said, "Hey, what's the deal? Why are, you'll like things and I'll see why you like things, but you rarely comment and you never post." And one of the comments that came back is, I feel it's a little risky to post. I don't know that what I have to say is relevant, that somebody else will say something. And they're like, and people can be really mean with their comments. I'm like, are you talking about LinkedIn? Because I've not seen people be mean. I've seen them have an
Mhm.
opposing viewpoint where it's like, hey,
Mhm.
I see where you're going, but I have to disagree. It's
Mhm.
much more sanitized. It's not like you're going
Mhm.
out on what was it, TikTok, and it's just brutal.
Oh my gosh. All of the other ones pretty much. TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, so LinkedIn has this interesting culture where it's like professionals. And so it's kind of expected of you to act professional on the platform. Um, so that's probably why, it's not as brutal, which is a good thing. Because we want people to feel like they can share what they have to say, as long as it's something good, without feeling like they're going to be attacked, which is the case on those other platforms sometimes. But yeah, I would totally encourage credit managers to use their voice on that platform. I feel like LinkedIn LinkedIn kind of favors like this kind of content called thought leadership. And I feel like it's kind of moving in this direction. Like it's definitely about networking and like building this network of people that you can use for information and connections and stuff. But it's also really moving towards like followers and like putting out content of like thought leaderships, maybe specifically about your industry, whether that be HR or social media or credit. But like, and not everybody's cut out for that. But like that can be a really fun thing for you. It can help build your personal brand, I guess.
Well, I know I for networking, and I've seen posts where, hey, we're hiring, we're looking for someone to join the team, and I think that's really helpful, especially where
Mhm.
you're in an industry now where you can have a lot of, hey, take talent where you find talent. I don't necessarily have to see you in my office every day to know you're working. I can tell that from the AR, so it's a lot different. It's a different viewpoint of the world now. I
Sure.
know part of what I've heard back from different credit people is, well, what we do is kind of private. It's, I'm
Mhm.
not sure how professional it is. There's a certain, finesse around credit. And I agree on a lot of things. You can't just get out there and go, so y'all, today I was in here and Fred's Lumber is just a disaster. Let me tell
Yeah,
you what
don't
this
do that.
clown said. Now, granted, it would be funny because there's a lot of that happens.
Totally.
And you would phone a friend and go, you are never going to guess who came in here and what they said.
Yeah.
Can you believe this? But, you can still reframe it. There's a lot of things that you'll read, like in the credit advice column, or that we talk about in some of the podcasts, that
Right.
you can sanitize the situation, but those are the real things. It's like, yeah, I know what the 5 C's of credit are, and yeah, they're important to know, but let's talk about what really happens, when you pull that curtain back behind there and get that conversation going. And how do you put problem solving like that out on a professional platform without it turning into just total chaos?
Yeah.
Like, I saw this one
Mm.
guy that I think I was telling you about him before. This caught my attention. He said, starting to look for a new job, going to document it here on LinkedIn on a blog. And
Oh
I
my
thought,
god. Yeah,
okay, this
no.
is going to be idiocy. And then I found myself following his day adventures, going, this is so real life. This is actually cool. And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because the way that he did it was, short little blurbs. He was very professional with still keeping it real. And I was just fascinated by that. I'm like, this is the
Mhm.
kind of stuff that I can learn from and get little nuggets out of that really happens. It's not, okay, I put my resume out and everything's great and everybody wanted me. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you want it to feel, but that's rarely how it is.
Yeah, it seems like that post was, like, really authentic. It was this guy sharing, like, what's really going on in this period of time, which is totally relevant for LinkedIn, again, because it's a career professional platform. And that is such a big theme for content that does well, is, like, people want authenticity. They don't want, that predictability. Like if you see the same kind of post 5 times in your feed, you're just going to scroll, but it's things that kind of stop you because they're a little
Yeah.
different, things like that. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to those personal experiences as a credit manager, you definitely want to use like discretion and common sense, and because you don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, let's
And
put all that out on Front Street where it's like, let me tell you about our cross section of customers. We have this bottom echelon. It's like, no, we
yeah,
can't,
no,
even though we all have them, we can't put that out there.
yeah,
But it does create where, I did a podcast on my 5 pet peeves, and the feedback I got from that just in emails was hilarious. They're like, oh my God, get out of my head, because a lot of us have
yeah,
those similar
yeah,
experiences. And
yeah.
when I asked some of the young credit professionals that I mentor, I'm like, I don't really see you on LinkedIn. And they're like, one of them said, and I know this is not the norm because you and I have talked statistics and we've talked about, you go out there and LinkedIn tells you here's all of this, and it's hard to find data on LinkedIn that's not produced by LinkedIn. So I'm always a
Mhm,
bit skeptical when someone produces their own data. It's like, okay, what was the sample pool? But I asked her, I
mhm,
said, so why aren't you on LinkedIn? She goes, honestly, I thought it was just the new Facebook. It's like for old people. She goes, I don't really know what the value is to me. I'm like, girl, we're going to do it right now together, and you're going to build this. And let me tell you why this is important. You're going to be able, depending on at least follow the company you work for, and maybe
mhm.
make a comment, or, it helps keep you involved in what's happening in your industry, in your chosen career. Even if it's not what you want to do for life, be educated on what you're doing. And you can't get support if you don't give it. I'm not saying you have to
Mhm.
do a post this long. I mean, frankly, I don't read those because my attention span doesn't last for this long on LinkedIn. It's like, give me a video or keep it to a paragraph. I don't want to see
Right.
something that's 14 paragraphs long.
Right.
I know that's
Yeah.
not popular. I know, and I have friends that do those that are long, and we have heated discussions about why they think I'm wrong, and we have respectful conversations about, stop with the this, and they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, but here's why I do that, and they have their logic. I'm like, oh, if it works for you, then who cares what I think?
Yeah, kind of going to that what that young person said, I would say, I mean, as I think young people that are starting out trying to build a career should definitely be on LinkedIn because that can help you build your career. Like I've made so many connections throughout my couple years at LBM Journal, and like LinkedIn just helps me kind of solidify them in a sense where, if I were to ever need to reach out or want to reach out to someone, I could do that through that platform. Because I don't have everybody's phone numbers. I mean, you could honestly, in theory, you could, get phone numbers and emails, but
It's just easy to message through LinkedIn. You can send them a quick
yeah.
message and then you can connect. But so how comfortable are you if you see someone and you're like, "Hey, I have questions about this. I wonder if this person would be okay with me calling them." Are you okay
Mm.
connecting them, and connecting and sending a note saying, "Hey, can you carve out 15 minutes or 10 minutes for me?" Are you comfortable doing that?
Well, I'm definitely a Gen Zer in the sense where I don't call, I keep it via text or
Okay, I'm
messaging. So
sorry.
I
I'm
would
kicking it old school where it's like, "Girl, can we jump on the phone?"
no, in a sense where like I feel like phone calls kind of scare younger people. And then
Do
like
they?
they're yeah, kind of it's like it's a little intimidating. So it's a little easier to just like chat on LinkedIn, which is probably what I would do. And I really wouldn't have any hesitation reaching out and say,
Okay.
"Hey, like I loved your post. This is something I'm totally interested in. I have this question," which could lead into a 15-minute phone call, which could build such a great fruitful relationship. I mean, you've talked about mentorship on this platform before, but like just leading into those relationships where you have someone that you can kind of lean on.
Yeah. Well, sometimes
Yeah.
mentorship happens when you don't even realize it's happening. It's a conversation where something that someone said just sticks with you. It's like, talking to this one person, where she's like, "Hey, I really thought it was more like kind of, I think her exact quote was, LinkedIn feels like Facebook with a tie. It's full of corporate jargon, humble brags, and people trying too hard to sound important. I want real conversations and not just job updates and recycled motivational posts." And
Yeah.
and I'm like, so I had to write it down because, yeah, when she said that, I'm like, wow, you really were very concise in your thought process here. And you know, but as I watched the posts come up, I noticed here are people that I tend to interact with, and then here are people that I read it and it's like, okay, great. I saw that on Pinterest too. Um, but sometimes I guess it's whatever resonates with you and maybe knowing the person. But it was, first of all, I don't think there's a such thing as a humble brag. You're either, if you have to say humble
Humble
brag, you're not humble
brag.
bragging. Just don't use that word. It's awful.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that authentic conversation you were talking about, where
It
if you're
does.
keeping it
Mhm.
real. And I saw, I was doing accepting some connections, and something came up in my feed that said, here are some new people on LinkedIn. And this one came up, and I swear to God, he looked like, his little picture looked like he was 12. I'm like, I don't even think this kid has all his permanent teeth. And he's on there, and he had like 3 connections. I'm like, oh, bless his heart, just
What?
trying. And it said, it had his name, and it said, just trying to make a living, or just trying to make it through this. It was just like this little, like, I wanted to know this kid just because it's like, I kind of want to talk to you and see just the way you approach this. It's like exactly what I would think, where if I were that age and I'm putting something out there on LinkedIn, and because I have like no experience at this point in my life, and just going, hey, I'm just trying to make a
Yeah.
career. I'm just trying to make a living. I'm just, whatever it was. And I thought,
Yeah.
that was just so cool. I'm like, oh man, I want to meet this kid.
New profile picture, it's just me, like, just trying to make a living,
With
but
his
but
3
yeah, no,
connections, I'm like, well, now you have 4. So,
yeah, like, authenticity really is, like, the driving factor for what makes a piece of content interesting, in terms of, like, we'll say statistics, but so it makes sense if a younger person or just someone who's not on LinkedIn is saying like, "Yeah, nah, it feels kinda annoying, it feels a little, like, stupid. People are just on there saying the same things." Which is the case, sometimes if people maybe aren't being super authentic and they're just pushing out corporate or they're just pushing out jargon, but there are a lot of people on there that are being really authentic, but those are the people that you're just gonna naturally gravitate to more.
yeah.
They just provide more value, they're a better connection. Um, yeah, and so that's what people do wanna see on there.
Well, and so that kind of brought us to, when I was talking to some of my credit buddies, it's like, social media is helps you with a branding tool. Whether you're looking to, whether you're like, look, I'm a credit manager, I don't want to do all this other stuff. I just want to be able to come in and just kick ass on my job and do the very best job that I can. Like, well, you can still do that, but you can still have, I look at LinkedIn like it's kind of like your ongoing, um I don't like kind of it not only is it your brand, but it's like your ongoing resume. It's, people are getting a sense of who you are, and or that you even exist. You may want to expand how you're doing business, or what your role is and how you do that, and the connections that you have. I follow several CFO networks, and half of the time their conversations on there, I'm like, I don't care about this, but I'll read a lot of it because something hits me and gives me an idea, or I go down a rabbit hole, something that hits the credit industry or hits something to do with what I'm doing in building materials or construction, and it makes such a difference. It's trying to be, more well-rounded and kind of see what that looks like. But When you talk about professional and personal branding, some people want to keep everything so I think it's so hard anymore to keep your personal and your profession. There's the lines have so blurred. And I don't think I do any I think my Facebook picture is like from I think I think both my kids were still in high school. That's how old the picture is on there. I mean, it's an old picture. And I rarely post because my friends all know what I'm doing, or it's like I can't do both. I'm just not that talented. I can only pick one lane to
Mhm.
play in. And nobody
Mhm.
needs to see 76 of your favorite vacation pictures. It's like, please don't put your whole photo out there. Just one at the beach. You're good.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Yeah. I guess what I would say is, like, I guess LinkedIn is it has many different benefits to it. And it sounds like you do go on there and you're waiting for someone who has something valuable to say to just kind of show up, and you'll kind of give that value. But sometimes there aren't people that, live up to that standard. But yeah, it's hard to be a pioneer. So if there aren't a lot of credit managers already out there kind of leading the way, it can be hard to do that yourself. But yeah, if you want to build a following, if you want to build a name for yourself, LinkedIn is a great place to do that, by just putting stuff out there. And it doesn't have to be that serious or that big of a deal. Like, that's in one sense if you want to build a name for yourself, but also if you just want to build stronger connections with people, that's also a great way to do it. Like, it doesn't have to be super serious posts, but just giving people a little bit of your professional insight or knowledge or your professional life will hopefully, grow those connections. So yeah, it kind of is what you make of it, like you said, you get in what you get out of it, what you put into it. So if you're willing to kind of put some effort into it, I'm sure you'll reap some benefits from it.
Well, I like the idea of being able to have a community that you've built, like the LBM community. You're able to, connect with them, have different conversations, reach out. And I look at credit community the same. I've met some credit managers that they're getting into doing more speaking. They want to share their knowledge. They're putting content out there. And so I
Yes,
try to make sure where it's like, hey, I want to support you. I know that we're kind of in a little bit of a niche industry because it's credit, it's trade credit in the LBM and construction space. So it's big, but it's not. And so when you see someone else that's doing it and you're like, I think you're doing a great job. And they're like, really? Because this is the first time I've done something like this. It's like, no, I want you to, I want to support you. And how do I make, what can I do to support you as well? So if we're building this community and we're helping support one another and elevate the whole industry and give it visibility, that's a win.
definitely. And yeah, I guess kind of like you said, there's credit in the LBM space, and then there's just credit in general. And
Yeah.
you've talked about on this podcast how credit is not a super promoted career. And so, yeah, just elevating that industry in general, just
Oh, I
getting the
tried to
word
get you
out
to be a
about
credit
it.
manager, and you're like, hard
I
no.
don't think that would be difficult for me.
But you know more about credit than what you think you do because we've had so many
I
conversations
have,
and they
yeah,
all intertwine. And
I
that's
have.
where it's, as you're looking at building that community and how you utilize LinkedIn. And I've worked really hard to try to build a network for myself of like, other professionals that it's like, how can we help elevate what we're doing and attract younger generations to it? Because I think the last statistic I saw on credit managers was that the average credit manager age is, and they just had over 40. They went to, then after that, they were like, and then and it was like a big group. It was like the majority was in the over
Wow.
40 bucket. And I'm like, I know a lot of
Yeah.
credit managers and we're way the
Yeah.
hell over 40. So, when you're
Yeah.
looking at who's coming into that space, you want them to feel welcome and you want them to feel like,
Yes.
look, I know that it sounds like it might be a grind all day where it's just, you're not dialing for dollars. You're not just calling for, hey, your furniture rental is past due. It's you're calling repeat customers, you're building relationships, you're doing it can be a really cool job. And then there's passing on your knowledge, and you don't have to have been doing this job for 40 years to have knowledge to pass on. You can be somebody who's just been doing it for a few years and go, let me tell you what
Exactly.
I see, and here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I those are the conversations that I think we can continue to leverage and have those next voices coming up. I get so excited about this. You're you're very calm, and I'm very spastic all the time.
We do have different demeanors, don't we?
So, any advice you have for credit managers that are starting to engage online? That there's and knowing that people have fears. I mean, everybody has that where you want to be witty, you want to be this, you want to be that. It's like, okay, sometimes an apple's just an apple. Sometimes it's just, hey, you go, guy,
Yeah.
is all it takes.
That's exactly right. So, like, don't overcomplicate it. Um, be yourself, because you're gonna kind of attract the people that you want to attract by being authentic. I think the biggest thing that holds people back, I'm sure, is like fear and self-consciousness. I mean, we all experience it. We think about how others are perceiving us. Try not to be hard on yourself. Everything that I'm sure what you have to say is beneficial, is good, is positive. So just kind of believe in that, and just go for it. I would say just go for it. What do you have to lose?
I love that. It's like, stop overthinking what you're going to post. Just post it. I mean, I've posted stuff where I'm like, oh my God, I look illiterate. I read this before I posted it? Because it doesn't look like I know how to spell. And you have to go
Yeah.
back and edit it. You're like, oh, I hope nobody saw this. And you're like, yeah, 104 people saw it already. It's like, and they all know I can't spell now.
Oh gosh.
Because you
Well,
get so
guess what?
spoiled.
They only look at it once and then they scroll past. Like, I feel like we're always looking at what we've put out, but other
Good
people
point.
don't take a second look at it.
Well, and I think that LinkedIn has a little bit of an emotional roller coaster in relation to branding yourself, because you're on LinkedIn, you're automatically creating a brand. And there are people that do it really well. And you're like, God, they always look so brilliant. And then I'm over here like Daffy Duck. And I think we always are so hard on ourselves that, we don't stop and think that it's a flash in the pan for somebody else. Like you said, they look at it, they're
Yeah.
like, huh, and then they move on. I love that you were willing to come on and talk about this and how to use social media. And I guess the big takeaway for me that I heard from you is just use it. Just start, putting your toe in the water. Yes, but maybe make a comment, or, hey, I saw this great article. I'm going to repost it because it was amazing. And,
Mhm.
somebody else wrote it. And I'm okay giving them props for doing that. But I love that people are getting out there and at least trying to encourage others to take those steps, so that it's not always the same voice. You're hearing that community speak.
Mhm. Totally.
All right, that is going to bring us to a close for a very unusual episode of LBM Talks Credit and Social Media, because we
Woohoo.
wrapped up a bunch into this one. I would like to thank our sponsors, Nuvo, who are amazing. And if you have not checked them out, it's nuvo.com. Go check them out. If it's taking you too long to process a credit application, you need these folks. And if you want to hear any more about LBM Talks Credit or LBM Talks Social Media, we have a new episode of one or the other out every Tuesday. And we're always happy when you like, click, and follow.